Just a very short video to talk about social Trinitarianism and classical Trinitarianism, and just to encourage you to realize that there's been a massive shift within the last 100 years as to our understanding of the Trinity. And I don't think people realize how pervasive and deep this change is, and how far away from the classical understanding of the Trinity, how far away things have moved. And I just wanted to make people aware of this so that you go back to church history and read those ancient creeds and the debates and discussions of that time to get an understanding of what they were talking about. I do recommend a book. There's a book underneath linked to a review. It's called On Classical Trinitarianism. Now, I'm not an ecumenicalist. I'm not into being ecumenical in terms of Roman Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy. However, in this book, there are theologians of evangelical, Catholic, and Eastern Orthodox all writing on retrieving the Nicene Doctrine of the Triune God. So they're all writing defending the Nicene Doctrine of the Trinity. So I'd encourage you to read the book, get hold of the book. If you're interested in apologetics, you're interested in defending the faith, I'd encourage you to get hold of the book. I put a review of the book underneath this video. But I just want to talk about this issue of the social Trinity. Back in the time of the Council of Nicaea and later councils, when they were developing the doctrine of the deity of Christ and then the doctrine of the Trinity, they had certain words, and they understood certain words in a certain way. So, for example, the Son is begotten of the Father. Now, that was not seen in the Council of Nicaea. It was not seen as subordinationism. The word begotten of the Father was seen in terms of ontology, in terms of being united to the essence of the Father. But in modern times, there's been a big emphasis on social Trinitarianism and a redefining of that kind of language of begotten, and putting the Son in a more subordinate position in eternity. So that's just one little example of how language was used in the time of Nicaea, at the time of those fathers, and how in modern times that language has been doctored and changed to a more social Trinitarianism. So I'll just give that as an example, just as a little taster, and that has infected that's the social Trinitarianism has affected evangelicalism, which I'm going to go into. So you have a Roman Catholic theologian called Karl Rahner, who wrote a seminal work on the Trinity, and he basically kind of was saying, let's forget about the Trinity of the past, and he was pushing more of a social Trinitarianism. And then you have the liberation theologians like Boff and people like that, Moltmann. They push this social Trinitarianism, and this social Trinitarianism kind of ditched the doctrine of divine simplicity. And this is key. There was a ditching of the doctrine of divine simplicity and focusing on the individual consciousness of the persons. Okay? The individual consciousness of the persons and ditching divine simplicity. So if you had to go back to St. John of Damascus, you go back to any of these ancient theologians, they would be shocked by that, because if you ditch the doctrine of divine simplicity, you're opening yourself up to saying there are multiple gods. So this social Trinitarianism, it grew with people like Karl Rahner, Catholic theologian, the liberation theologians, Boff. But then people like in evangelical and reform circles, you have people like William Lane Craig. Hi, Ryan. God bless you, brother. You have like people like William Lane Craig, Alvin Plantinga. They also pushing this social Trinitarianism, and it even infected evangelicalism. So if you read Grudem's systematic theology, Bruce Ware's systematic theology, Bruce Ware's doctrine of God, they make in eternity the Son subordinate to the Father, with the idea of begotten is subordinationism, which is taking it really being influenced by social Trinitarianism. Whereas the Nicaea, when they used the begotten of the Father, they meant that the Son was part of the essence of the Father. That's how they understood that term. So again, you have this Catholic theologian, Karl Rahner, you have Boff, you have the liberation theologians, then even modern evangelicals like William Wayne Craig, and then you've got Alvin Plantinga, and then it even influenced evangelical writers such as Wayne Grudem, who I respect, by the way, and Bruce Ware. And the problem with the evangelical theologians is they ditch divine simplicity. They ditch the idea of mystery. And they tried to, with the open theism. Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks. And so they, in order to deal with open theism, the evangelicals kind of did a halfway house. So they were. So you can even look at John Frame, Reformed theologian, Scott Oliphant, Reformed theologian, even said that there were attributes added to God through the covenant. I mean, this is a theologian that I respected, but I'm shocked to find out that because of the influence of social Trinitarianism, they kind of trying to develop their own idea of the Trinity, not rooted in the old classical understanding of the Trinity. Because in the classical understanding of the Trinity, there was an emphasis on divine simplicity and mystery, etc. And so you get this kind of creativeness within the Reformed and evangelical circles. So you have John Frame inventing his own terms. You have, and these are theologians I respect, value, but we have to say it, inventing their own terms. Scott Oliphant inventing their own terms, like he is on record as saying that God, because they're trying to bridge this gap. If that God is timeless, how can he be in time? And so Scott Oliphant is saying, where the classical theologians were saying that God doesn't need anything, and so there was a mystery to that, whereas many evangelical theologians are trying to understand, well, how can God be in time and not change? But then they will try to bridge the gap between open theism and classical Trinitarianism and have it a halfway house where God can change in time. And so you have the idea that because of the covenant, Oliphant is saying that there was an attribute added to God, which is crazy. Absolute craziness. So all I wanted to do with this video is just to make you aware that when you're reading modern theologians, even Reformed theologians, even evangelical theologians, people who I respect Wayne Grudem, I respect Bruce Ware, I respect Oliphant, I respect John Frame, but you have to be aware that there's been massive experimentation in teaching the doctrine of the Trinity in modern times over the last 100 years. And when they use language in the modern age about the Trinity, there's very little understanding of the deep rootedness of the classical language that was used at the Council of Nicaea and these church fathers. And it's a completely foolishness to try and be creative in the modern times and not be rooted exegetically to the Scripture and to the classical understanding of the Trinity. So that's all I wanted to do, is to bring this to your attention, that you need to be aware that there has been a sea change in modern times where the social Trinitarianism has taken deep root. And the problem with social Trinitarianism is because it posits three consciousness persons within the Trinity and ditches divine simplicity and ditches mystery and other things, it's well in dangerous, because it then can be accused of believing in three gods. All right, so that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to share that today. Ryan, God bless you, brother. So yeah, so just a little video there, just to make you think about that. So I put a link to the book, but I think it's something that you need to be aware of as apologists, those who are doing apologetics, that to not slip into this social Trinitarianism, and not to slip into reading modern books on the Trinity, whichever. It can be Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, it can be Reformed, it can be Evangelical. They've all been infected in the modern age. In the modern age, there are Catholic theologians, Eastern Orthodox theologians, Evangelical and Reformed, Reformed theologians. They've all been in the modern age, not in ages gone by, but in the modern age. In the last 100 years, there have been many that have been infected with this social Trinitarianism. And you need to be aware of that. So when you're reading, have your critical mind and thinking, and so because of that, they are not rooted in the classical understanding of the nature of the Trinity and the language of that time, the flavor and language of that time. So words like begotten and things like that, in modern times, they've been redefined. Okay, to a point where the modern understanding of Trinity, you could say, it believes in three gods. That's how dangerous it's become. So what I'm saying is, don't lose the flavor, the richness of the Council of Nicaea and those councils, and the debates and discussions of the Cappadocian Fathers, Athanasius and the Cappadocian Fathers, those debates that they had and the language that they use. Don't lose that language. Get to know that language, get to understand that language, and don't lose it as a Christian apologist, because in modern times, they've invented their own language and they've forgotten what those debates and discussions were about. And because of that, the richness of the doctrine of the Trinity has been lost in modern times. There are some theologians, and this book is an example of many theologians that are calling people back to the Council of Nicaea and the thing there, the more classical understanding. But I'm just saying that I'm just trying to make you aware, and it's like a complete avalanche has come. And imagine you've got a car, right? And an avalanche came and covered the car. The doctrine of the Trinity classically is here, and the avalanche of modern social Trinitarianism has engulfed the classical understanding. And I'm just making you aware of that you need to push the dirt away and get back to the classical understanding, because the ditching of the divine simplicity, the ditching of mystery, the reinterpreting of words has meant that, and inventions have meant that there's been a loss of the richness of the past, and also dangerous innovations like Oliphant. I was shocked to hear Oliphant. He's a Reformed theologian, and he's on record of saying that because of the covenant, it brought in a new attribute of God. And I think that's crazy. That is just absolute craziness, absolute craziness. And people like John Frame inventing terms and things as well. I mean, craziness, really. So those are my thoughts. Ryan, God bless you, bro. And anybody else who's watched this video. I gotta go. It's just a little video. I hope it encourages you to go deeper onto this topic and to avoid social Trinitarianism like the plague. God bless you and take care.